the supply management idea become more and more accepted. The supply management idea become more and more accepted.
welcome here in Archon near Geneva on our campus. My name is Bernard Gracia and I'm president of EIPM, and I'm very proud and honored to welcome you here on our campus, to welcome you here for the 30th anniversary of EIPM, to welcome you here for the People Development Workshop, part of this 30th anniversary. I'm very proud and honored to welcome you here because we're outside, you see, we're just on the campus in front of our building, and we're pleased because it's perhaps the first time we're outside during this lockdown we're facing all around the world. So I'm pleased because it's a 30th anniversary, it's a People Development Workshop, and we're here in our institute. And the institute, as you can see on fourth wall, it's written Purchasing Institute, and it's very rare in the world to get purchasing written on the front wall of an institute. So we're pretty proud of that, and it shows you that we're a school and we're here for education. The second thing we're pretty proud about is all the values written on the front wall of the IPM. So we speak about responsibility, we speak about equity, we speak about respect, about humility, and we're going to speak about that during the competence. When we're going to speak about competence, there are social competence, and all these elements are part of behavior. And we know that we're going to speak about the technical competence, but we're going to speak much more about the behavioral, social competencies we need to improve what we're doing and to be ready for tomorrow jobs. So thanks very much to be with us today. We're going to go inside. I'm very pleased to welcome you inside with all my colleagues. So thanks again for being with us for this 30th anniversary. Thanks again for being with us for this People Development Workshop. And we're very honored to show you we are part of the business, education, and people development. Thanks very much. I'm very pleased to welcome you inside and to be with you now to start this People Development Workshop. For the first session of this CIPM People Development Workshop, you know that normally we used to get this workshop just before the conference in December, welcoming 30 to 50 HR people coming mainly from Europe. And today, you're not here, we're not in December, but you are over 300 people coming from all around the world in between the morning and afternoon session. And the same for the speakers, who are speakers coming from Singapore, from Germany, from Sweden, from France, it's a bit different as the conference, but it's wider. So for this first session, we're going to cover two main topics, in fact. The first topic, it's about procurement academies and global regionalized pedagogies, with two speakers, Rafael Torino from E.ON and Xavier Sarat from Agilent Technologies. And the second topics, we'll be covering pedagogy for a VUCA world by Dr. Hervé Lejean. Let's jump in the first topic, procurement academies. The main question you may be bringing is why creating a procurement academy? What are the advantages and disadvantages of creating a procurement academy? How can we create a procurement academy, global or locally, with a global paper or local paper? What are the pedagogies to be used starting today for the tomorrow profile? To answer those different questions, two speakers. The first speakers I'm going to welcome is Rafael Salgado Torino, who is Director of Supply Chain Excellence at E.ON. Rafael was born in Brazil, and he's been living in Germany for quite a while now, and he has been working with E.ON for some years. And he's one leader in E.ON about and knowing very well this the word of pedagogies and the word of procurement academy. Rafael, welcome here. Thanks very much to be with us. Rafael, the floor is yours. Rafael, it's a real pleasure to be with you.
All right, first, it's a pleasure for me to be here, Bernard, with you today as well. And coming to your question, what are the three key reasons for having an academy? First, we strongly believe, and I always say that, since we decided to put the academy together, that investing on people is the best investment a company can actually have. So really trying to develop people, in our opinion, would be the best way for achieving excellence level of performance within the company. So we will have the fastest payback. That's how we normally put that this way. The second element is that we are in a frequent change in this procurement environment that we're living in, with all the things that are happening in the market lately, with all the changes that we have as well in the different industries, especially in the energy industry. Getting people ready for the unforeseen is something that became crucial on our type of business. And the third element, I would say, is that we have had people based on the different mergers, based on the different integrations with different levels of capabilities within the company. So these different levels of capabilities within the company trigger the need of somehow homogenize the capabilities of the people and getting people into the same level of performance. So from our perspective, those would be the three major reasons for having a supply chain academy. First, I would say have very clear on your mind what you want to have within your academy. Is that something that you're planning to aim in order to develop the hardcore skills of a buyer? Or is that something that you want to have in order to focus as well on soft skills, for instance? In our case, our academy was very focused on the hardcore skills. So we had very clear from the very beginning that what we wanted to do is that we wanted to invest on the technical capabilities of our people as being buyers. The second advice, search for the right partner. We found in EIPM the right partner for putting this thing together with us from the very beginning. And we did everything together from the very beginning until now. So we developed the CV, we developed how it should look like. We basically we created our supply chain academy. So that would be my second advice. Search for the right partner on doing that. The third one, have a very close alignment with your internal stakeholders. Human resources, workers' council, all of those things are very important when you're putting together a supply chain academy. We need to be walking towards the same direction. If you have any roadblocker, like by the workers' council or HR, that would just delay the process. That would not be something that would optimize or make fast the implementation of supply chain academy. So those are the three key learnings that we got. To be clear on what you want to have, because the scope of a supply chain academy can be a very vast one. Find the right partner and do the right internal alignments. Have the major stakeholders together with you on implementing the supply chain academy. So the three main pillars from our academy in the end, Bernard, they are based on the pillars that we have within supply chain. In the end, we have our dashboard of supply chain, where the element people is one of them. It has always been there. We have had already, we are on our third CPO, but that's if there is one element which is common to the three CPOs as being people. So within people, if I take a look on the three major pillars of our academy, the first one is improving performance. So that's something that we really want to see. We want to see on the daily activities. We don't want to send people to our academy that they learn, and in the end, they do not apply what they learn. That's why, for instance, in every single certificate program that we have been running together, we needed to have a payback of the investment delivered via a specific project. So we want to have a hands-on and a real application of what people do. The second element, the second pillar of our academy is diversity. We want to have as much as possible everyone from the entire group participating on the academy. So that's something that we try to promote, not only in Germany, but in UK, Sweden, Hungary, Czech. We have done that together as well, that in many cases we have even sent our learning to the region where the people were sitting. If language is a topic, we will find a way of actually breaking this barrier. But having this diversity and taking the different points of view from the different business is a second pillar. The third pillar that we have within our supply chain academy is that we want to have our people really focus on what matters. We don't want to spend too much time, for example, on people focusing on the very small topics related to procurement, but instead to be aware about what's happening, to be aware about the trends, the new trends of what's happening in supply chain. And our academy should reflect that. We should have obviously showcases which are related to the industry that we are in, to the energy industry, but we would like to have as much as possible a very up-to-date scenario of what's new in supply chain, what's new in procurement, what is up to date. We want to have a moving supply chain academy. We don't want something static. So from our perspective, those will be the three main pillars that we need to focus on. All right. So as I said, diversity is something very important to us, and basically all countries that we are in has already gone through the academy. Okay. So from the Odeon, I can name, for example, Germany, which is what we have our headquarters, UK, Sweden, Romania, Hungary, Czech Republic, Italy. With the acquisition of Innogy, we are now incorporating new countries into our portfolio as well. So we're adding, for instance, Poland, which was something that we didn't have before, but we have already had this year. And we are planning to incorporate as well Croatia and Slovenia, where we do have some people sitting there as well. If you're talking about how many people, we normally divide the assistance into blocks. One is a certificate program that we have been running together, where we officially certified our people in 3 levels: professional, expert, and manager. And out of this program, we have already had 153 people participating. If you take a look on the general trainings, which is either via e-learnings or on a standalone course as well, I would say that we have already reached more than 500 people in different trainings. This considering an organization which is focused to be 648 employees. So I can say very proudly that we have already touched the vast majority of the organization. And we have done that not only for the very traditional procurement roles, like, for instance, global category manager or international category leader, but we have also had regional category managers. We have had purchasers participating, and we have put our managers to participate into that as well, Bernard. We have had from N-3 level, which are the heads of, even to director level, having directors participating into the academy as well. So I'm quite proud about the range and how we have touched the vast majority of the organization. So for me, the role has been a very crucial one as well, because within the academy, we actually identify the different capability gaps, the different skill gaps that we have within the group. Whenever you bring people into class, normally you will find that some companies were focusing more in some areas, some companies were focusing more in other areas. And the academy is crucial for us because it really helps us, first of all, to identify the skill gaps and the capability gaps in order to see where we need to focus further. That's one point. And perhaps the most important topic is that as out of every single merger, as you know, Bernard, one of the key elements that every single merger has in common is the delivery of synergies. So we went through this synergies delivery program as of last year. We are carrying on this year as well, and we are continuing with our synergies delivery program by 2022. And the role of the academy has been crucial on the point of improving people's skills so they could be ready to actually better deliver the synergies. And deliver the synergies is not only the low-hanging fruits of going and renegotiate with the supplier, but really going deep into understanding what is the difference between one business model and the other, and how can you take benefit of both, for instance. Has a lot to do with make or buy, has a lot to do with best cost country, has a lot to do with costing. And the role of the academy has been crucial into that, because our people, they will definitely better prepare for facing the synergies delivery plan. I can say proudly that we have reached and we have achieved our targets from last year. We are on a very good track on what comes to deliver our synergies targets for 2021. And we believe that we will also deliver without major concerns our targets for 22. And that has a crucial impact on what we promise to the capital markets. Because out of the merger, there is a clear message coming from the top that we deliver what we promise to deliver. Okay, so there were basically two different dimensions that we put on the table. The first one was that we wanted to improve people's skills. And by improving people's skills, obviously, we needed to have an assessment of the SS in order to see how the to be would look like. So we agreed with HR that we were coming from point zero. So let's do an assessment. Let's see where our people are, okay? And let's see where we want to be. Then we decided to add this element into a document which we already had, into a tool that we already had within E.ON, which was what we call the PDP. It's the personal development plan. So each employee in supply chain, following our normal HR alignment, should have a personal development plan. And what we said was that in order to move from A to B, from the assessment to where we wanted to be, those were the trainings needed in order to provide this person this track to move from A to B. We had a second element, which was differing a little bit from the regular trainings that we were providing, which was a certificate. On the certificate, we had to have very clear with the HR as well as with the Workers' Council, the co-determination bodies, that it should be something aimed to support the development of any employee. Having a certificate which is valid, especially in Europe, and it is really well recognized, will give the employee the possibility of further improving his own CV as well. So that was something that we have agreed on. And we have agreed as well that we needed to be very neutral from the perspective that some people would pass the certificate and some other people will not pass. And that should be something normal. In the end, we are not expecting to validate or to certify the entire company. It wouldn't happen. Why? Because we had different levels of capabilities. And if in the end, we will certify the entire company, we should actually revise our own certification program to see if it was the right one. So it was really like a mini course or a mini masters that we applying within supply chain in order to get people certified and using the skills and using the diploma they were getting out there in the market. A mix of both. And I tell you why. Obviously, we wanted to have the generic standard concept understood and well known by all of our people, all of our buyers. But I will give you one concrete example, Bernard. Our business, as you know, is the energy business. We are not like an automotive company, for example. We don't really produce a product in the end that is delivered. So yes, it is good to understand manufacturing process or costing within manufacturing process, but we cannot have a very close eye on that, or we cannot go too deep into that because it's not part of our reality. Another instance, logistics costs, for example. Logistics is something that we need to understand. Normally, it doesn't play a very, I would say, deep role into the model of the business that we actually have. It's not, as I said, like in the automotive industry. So our aim was that everyone would have the generic understanding about the basics that we needed to have, but going deeper into the real topics that could create value to a supply chain from the energy business. So we tailored some showcases together. We tailored the trainings that we needed to have, going from this generic perspective, but narrowing down in the end to being more specified on what comes to the topics, which would have a higher impact into our business model. Okay, so overall, our supply chain academy is done in English. That's the primary language that we have, right? Why do we say that? Because we want to be one supply chain. And yes, we acknowledge that not everyone is completely fluent in English. That's something that we are completely aware of. Nevertheless, parallel to the development of what comes to the skills of our people, we also need to invest on developing the language skills of our people as an enabler for the organization to interact even further. Fine. If we park this for one time and coming back to the acknowledgement we make that not everyone is on this level, the solution we found together in the end was that for some people, perhaps it would be difficult that they would attend, for instance, the certificate program because they will not be able to speak English, or that they will not be able to attend the regular standalone courses or some of the e-learnings, but we decided to send our trainers to the regions that they could speak local language. We have done that in Czech, we have done that in Hungary, we have done that in Sweden, for instance, and obviously we will not be able to cover every single course that we have within the Supply Chain Academy. Obviously, it will not replace, in the end, the certificate program as such, but we will cover the basic needs. What people need to learn the most would be covered. And that was done on their native language. So we sent people there. It was very well appreciated by the colleagues. It was appreciated by the local management as well, because again, language shall not be a barrier. Language should be an enabler. And we keep working on actually trying to further improve English specifically, because even though we found the solution of sending our trainers to the regions, what we want in the end is that everyone is able to communicate, that everyone gets together, that we have this interface between Swedish, Romanians, Czechs, Germans, and English together. So we want to have that because we believe that that creates value as well. Personally, I wouldn't go for that. As I mentioned to you, I believe that the social element is crucial. Okay, we are not machines. It's not about sitting in front of a screen and just learning. You're learning by talking to people as well. You're learning by exchanging. And even though we can do that, and we have learned, all of us, to do that on the digital world, the social element for me is still there and will be there after COVID as well. So I believe that this interaction between people is needed. It's needed that they sit together. It's needed that they see each other's face. That helps to build trust from one side. And I believe that trust is something, it's one of the core values that we need to have in procurement and supply chain as well. I believe we're going to be having a mix. Perhaps we're going to be having more digital than what we had before, but with still the face-to-face element. I give you one example. I normally like to sit together with the people in the inauguration of each of the certificate courses, either me or our CPO, which in the past used to be Claudia Viol and now is Lisbeth Bushko. This is something that I'm missing. I'm missing to sit together with them. I'm missing that after the very first day of class, for instance, we sit together and I ask them, how did it go? How was it? And perhaps we have a coffee together and perhaps we have a sandwich together. So this is something that I'm looking forward for having. I don't believe we're going to be fully digital. We have the capabilities of doing so, but it's not about having the capabilities, it's about wanting to do so. I believe we're going to increase substantially still because we have learned how to live in this digital form, but I don't believe we're going to move to an entire digital approach here. My consideration about Procurement Academy and about regionalized pedagogy. So first of all, Procurement Academy for me is not a plus anymore in large organizations, it's a must. I believe that all large organizations and even medium organizations should have a Procurement Academy. For me, it was one of the best investments, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we could have made. For me, we need to go, and that's something that I always defend here, that we live in a globalized world. And I think this COVID, I have been to some of the CPO roundtables together with your teams, Bernard, and there was something that I have listened there, and I kept. For me, this COVID situation just shows us that this entire discussion between being globalized or regionalized becomes nonsense anymore. We actually need to be both. We need to be globalized and we need to have a regional footprint anyhow. So from the academic perspective, I would say that every company needs to have a supply chain academy, a procurement academy. I would say that each company needs to have this global approach, but considering the regional elements that we have, because we are not only one business. I give you, for instance, the point of view that we have in NEOM. Now we don't have the renewables business anymore, but we have the energy networks business and we have the customer solutions business. They're quite different, not only from the geographic perspective about where the companies are sitting at, but also about the mindset, what is important for the business. So this regional piece of what is important to the business needs to be taken into consideration. You can't have one umbrella. We only follow one way of doing things, as you have a frame which is the same, but you need to count on those different regional elements, which are either specific to business or specific to regions or specific to whatever. And that needs to be embedded into the different discussions that we have within your Supply Chain Academy.
Thank you very much, Rafael, for this great presentation, getting a lot of information. Thanks a lot. I'm very pleased now to welcome our second speaker, Xavier Sarrat, who is the Associate VP Global Procurement at Agilent Technologies. Xavier was born in France and he has been living in different countries in Europe. He has been living a lot in China and now he's in Singapore. Xavier, welcome and thank you very much to be with us. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Hi, Xavier. It's a pleasure to be with you and welcome here. Just the first question. I understood that Agilent created a procurement academy. Why did you create this procurement academy and what's the main idea behind?
So, hello, Bernard. Nice to be with you today. Yes, so the role of the academy, the way we built it is really to create the workforce of tomorrow. And this is really the cornerstone of our strategy to build a resilient, a sustainable and a digital supply chain of the future. So in order to do so, we have decided to raise the bar of the skill and competency of our team. And that's why we entered in this process to create the academy.
Okay, and being in Asia, because you're located in Singapore, does it change something? You have a feeling that you have to go faster. You have a feeling that we go deeper. Does it change anything for you?
So actually, this program, yes, we led it from Asia, but it is a global program. So this academy has been run not only in Asia but also in Europe and in US. The Asia time, of course, is pushing us to go faster. This is you know well about China and Southeast Asia. So yes, it helps us to put things in motion in a faster pace than if we would have been in Europe, to be frank. But at the end, we deliver the training and the academy the same way, no matter where we are in the world.
So this is a global academy. When did you create this academy, Procurement Academy?
So we started to discuss this academy in 2019, and we put it in execution with the first step, which was the talent assessment at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So we are a bit more than 1 year now into the program, and we intend to have this program for the next at least 2 to 3 years. Before we get the first feedback on the impact in the organization.
Thank you. When we're preparing this discussion, you told me learn, excel, active, perform. This is the name of the academy.
Yeah, this is a LEAP program. Yes, that we implemented. Yes. Okay,
and behind these words, it has a true meaning, or it's just kind of sexy words.
We try to make it sexy, of course. Now, the idea is really to try to identify where are the gap in competency, in skills for our, let's say, team members, And based on that, we try to develop both individual paths, but also a global plan to raise this competency and to close the gap so that we are able again to face the constraint and the challenge of the future for all our teams. So it's not just, let's say, marketing or just wording. No, we are really looking at making the team excel and perform the best they can with the right tools and the right competencies.
So you started with a kind of competence assessment, correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we started with the EIPM talent assessment. So we had built on several different job profiles because this is both for procurement and logistic people. And based on that, we were able to identify where were the lacks, let's say, the gaps versus the best in class, and also versus what we expected from our side. So we try to build on both sides.
So you developed a competence assessment at the global level, and based on this global assessment, you have been developing global training, or more, it can be global training, but per category, per regions. How have you been doing, I mean, implementing?
So we have a global training, yes, which is individualized in the sense that we have a standard set of training per topics. So both for logistic and procurement, as I said, we may have also some logistic people participating in the procurement training and vice versa. The aim is that we have a mix of individual plan where we have a very specific training plan for each person that they have to follow. And then after, we want also to have a set of global trainings that everybody will have to go through because we consider that they are must-have. And from this perspective, we want everybody to share the same common language and the same common tools.
So basically, if I understand correctly, it's a global. You have these foundation programs which permits to share the same language, the same tools, same practices, and based on this foundation, you go and build some specific program for different persons, an individualized program. Is it correct to say that?
Exactly. We have an individual learning path for everybody to follow, and so we are able to track the progress and to track the completion at individual level, also based on the career development plan of each individual. Because also one of the aim of this LEAP program is to raise the competency, but also to build the succession plan of the future. So we want the people to be ready not only for the current position, but also for the next position they are going to take.
And this is based on the competence assessment. The gap analysis helps you to define that, correct?
Exactly, exactly. So we were able, so we have, the gap assessment is one of the tools that help us to do that. We have also our individual face-to-face with the people, and we try to understand where they want to be in the future and how they perform today. But the talent assessment was an important tool to help us to identify these gaps and to build the academy moving forward.
Thank you, Xavier. You're a global company, pretty important company, very big company. You're in the different parts of the world. Are you developing just a global programs, or are you regionalizing the program in function of the culture or in function of your strategies?
No, what we want is really we are a global organization in supply chain and procurement. So we don't have any difference of way of working, no matter the region. So we want to have a global academy in this case. And from this perspective, we have a global deployment of the program. So everything is in English, for example. All the trainers, they are delivering to the different region indifferently. So the training are a mix of face-to-face. So today this is in distant learning because of the COVID situation. And then we have also some e-learning modules coming from the existing library of Agilent. So it's a mix of the two, and they are delivered indifferently in all the region of the world the same way.
So one thing I find it very interesting when we prepare is to say, you started with us for the assessment, and then you say perhaps due to the COVID, you have been deploying this competence internally with your own competency. It's correct to say that, but you are the own trainers of your own people.
Yeah, we decided, in fact, when we were ready to enter in the discussion for the, in fact, we were and we decided to take a different path with internal competencies to deliver this training. So we selected some subject expert matter on different topics, on different, let's say, competencies. And also we included some people from outside procurement and global supply chain, like for legal, for example, for legal training. And we decided to develop this training internally and to deliver them directly from the team to the team members.
Okay. So today, your people are the subject expert matter. They are building the content and they are deploying it. And this deployment is global, so the same subject matter expert is deploying around the world, or do you have some relay in the different regions?
So at the moment, for some of them, we are developing across the world from one location for the modules which are not too long and that we are able to do it no matter the time difference. And for some of the topics, we are delaying until we can travel again and we can send the subject matter experts to the different location. So this has been one of the constraints that today, not all the topics have been delivered everywhere in the world because of this COVID situation. And we hope that by the end of the year, we will be able to fill this gap.
And the after COVID, you think you're going back to the face-to-face, or you try this distance online learning? You think it's never the new?
It's a good question. I think that the new normal will for sure look differently than what happened before COVID. I think that the tools for distant learning and they really proved efficient. Now, do they replace 100% what used to be before COVID? I don't think so. So I think the after COVID situation will be a mix between face-to-face in presential, I would say, and also face-to-face through WebEx or Zoom or other team meetings, with also a flavor of online learning through pre-existing modules. So I would say that in the future, it will not be one solution fits them all, but it will be a mix depending on the constraint, depending on the budget constraint, but also on the, let's say, the travel constraint and challenges. And we will try to find what is the right, let's say, a mix in between the different options that we have. The good thing is that the COVID created some option actually.
When we look at the content by itself, you say it has been developed internally, but are you developing a lot of content based on your culture, or it's more general content? It's more purchasing-led content, or it's more, let's say, behavioral content? What is for you the future of these elements?
So the content that has been developed by the team is really much based on experience, based on actual situation, and of course it is very much related to our industry and customized to the real challenge that we are facing on day-to-day basis. So we are thinking, of course, of sometime going back to the academic. So some of the team members, they went through some, let's say, available documentation that they could find online or some books. But in many cases, we try to make it on the job and very close to the daily issues that the team could face. So the people can relate and they can also implement it as fast as possible, as soon as possible in their daily life. So the objective is really not to be far away from the problem, but on hands, and so that we everybody can relate to what the training have been in terms of content.
Then we spoke about this academy. What would you say which are the three main pillars for you of an academy? I just think about three. I can't say four, but.
So I think the first pillar, clearly we discussed about it. It was this talent assessment tool, because really it helps us to drive the different content and where are the gaps again. So this was for us really the first pillar. The second pillar was based on let's say the right people, the right let's say support internally, whether coming from HR, coming for some VP sponsor, to make sure that all this program was well understood and well accepted. And the last one then drives to this last pillar, which is about communication, to explain to everybody, every participant, the reason why we were doing this assessment and the reason why we are doing the training and all the academy around that drives the workforce of tomorrow. So people need to understand that we are here to help and develop the career, to help and support the job rotation and the succession plan, so that we are prepared for whatever challenge we will have in the future in terms related to the competency and skills. Because this is really clear that any transformation or any change, we need the people to be prepared and ready for what is coming.
Listening to you on that, have you been helped, supported by any organization, internal organization, to develop the academy, such as HR, I guess, such as communication and so on? So who has been your main support?
So our main partner was HR business partner, in the sense that you know that from one country to the other and from one region to the other, the way of doing this kind of academy and the way of communicating are not the same. So we wanted to make sure that we don't make any miscommunication towards the employees and towards the employees representative. So we involved HR business partner from the very beginning. So they drive us in the right thing to do and how to bring this topic back to the organization. It has all for everybody. So it has been again a very good cooperation with HR. Of course, as I said, we also needed the senior sponsoring to make sure that everything is understood.
Creating an academy, which are your three main advices you could give?
So I think we already covered the topic. The main advice again is to understand why we are doing this academy. It has to support a business need, or let's say a strategic need. And in our case, we needed to implement a transformation within Agilent procurement organization. So I would say that the academy was a perfect match with our intention to launch this transformation and to carry on this transformation. So it helped us also to transform some of the, let's say, language and some of the tool and process that we wanted to implement. The second advice is about communication. Make sure that you over communicate. In fact, we never communicate enough, I believe. So this is something that we continue to do on a regular basis, to track the progress, to get the feedback from the employees, to make sure that they get the value out of the academy, the way we intend. And finally, I would say is to be very open-minded in terms of feedback, especially because in some case we know that some modules might be not at the level of the expectation. In this case, we should be very open to modify or to change, just to make sure that we are getting the right value for the employees.
Yes, thanks. What are the lessons learned?
This journey has been is still very time consuming, and it's a lot of effort and a lot of preparation, a lot of discussion internally and externally. But at the end, I think I would recommend any organization to embark on this journey, as it is very rewarding when we see that the team are enjoying the program, they are learning, they're asking for more, and we see that they like us to propose and to bring some new learning that they were not proposed in the past. So again, I would advise any organization to embark on the same journey, as the return is really excellent for the organization.
Thank you very much, Xavier. Take care of yourself.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you very much, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Xavier, to get this point of view from an American company based in Singapore. So you gave us these ideas, all these elements from Asia, very well. So thanks very much for all these comments. After these topics we covered, we're going to jump in the second main topic, which is which pedagogy for a VUCA world. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Basically, should we have, or will we have specific pedagogies for the future? Why? With which pedagogy are we going to enter in this world? So are we already entered in these new words of VUCA world? To answer those different questions, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Hervé Legendre, who is professor at EIPM and director of the Value Creation Observatory and of the EIPM Research Center. Hervé has been working a lot on innovation. He recently published with EIPM Fifth Generation Purchasing, which is a book you can find in different places. And he has been working through innovation and give us a lot of information about the speed of the demand, the speed of supply. Hervé was born in France. He's an engineer and doctor. He has been working at EIPM for over 10 years. Welcome, Hervé, to be with us now. The floor is yours, Hervé.
Hervé, glad to be with you. Dr. Hervé Legendre is director of the Value Creation Observatory. Is in charge of a diploma, executive diploma. Hervé, we went through this pandemic. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if we are out, but we are in the pandemic. This pandemic brought us the online relation, this virtual relation. Brought also.
Thank you, Bernard, for having the opportunity to share with you a certain number of views on the evolution of pedagogy. I think the simple answer would be no. I think what is driving the evolution of pedagogy related to purchasing and supply management education is not simply the fact that we are moving online. It's the evolution of the profession. It's the expectation in terms of contribution, the pace of time that is been accelerating all around. And today, pedagogy is all about working differently with the people who are with us in terms of helping them to cope with the level of speed, uncertainty, and complexity that they are facing in their day-to-day job. And of course, the pandemic has accelerated this uncertainty and complexity over the past 2 years, but it was there before. And we've been working on new ways of teaching, new ways of helping people develop their competencies and their skill well before the pandemics. It's just been a matter of adapting them to an online type of environment, but a lot of changes were already in place.
Thanks very much for this first point. So evolution of pedagogy is not only coming from face-to-face to online. So in practice, can we adapt pedagogy to the different levels of uncertainty and complexity, as you just said?
Yeah, no, I think I could give you a number of examples. We are training people from a professional buyer level to managers and executive. And of course, throughout this journey, or throughout these different stages, they are being in front of different degree of uncertainty and complexity. There are situations that are rather simple, where there is a clear cause and effect relationship between a number of factors. And what's essential is really to help the buyer to be able to get the information, organize the information, and suggest what would be the best solution in this context. So we help them through the use of tools and framework. We help them understand how to use their toolbox in order to be able to deliver the best possible solution rapidly to their organization. But this is only some of the simple situations that you will find in the professional buyer level. We are going, for instance, very often into more complicated situations where simply collecting the fact is not enough. We have situations where not all the facts are available, where there might be more than one solution. So in that situation, we help people look at what fact they can collect. They can then develop a number of options that allow them to come up with some recommendation to the business. To give you some example, for instance, in the field of innovation, we've been putting together some case study where people are provided with information on 120 startups. So 120 startups for the field of agriculture or for the field of retail. This is a huge amount of innovation, a huge amount of opportunities that they can look at. And we give them very short amount of time, and it's down to them to see what would be the different options they could be delivering and coming up with which one can help the business solve their most strategic important problems. So real life situation, information overload is, for instance, a way to recreate situations where we face complicated situations. Also, in the field of innovation, we have other types of activities we do with expert buyer in terms of understanding what would be the best workshop they could organize in order to access innovation. And we have created options for them. So either they can ask suppliers to come and show their innovation, or they go to the business to go and see the innovation, or they can have a formula, an option where they can have a let's do a prototyping exercise together with supplier. So we create frameworks, gamified frameworks that help people think in terms, oh, I've got more than one option. And from that, they think in terms of what would be the most appropriate one, instead of trying to go for what is the one best way to organize innovation workshops across the whole organization. When we go further in terms of complexity of situation, you can only learn by being able to connect with other people, getting some input, getting some different ways of looking at the world. So for instance, in some of our managers program, we organize peer assist sessions. And basically the peer assist session is a situation where people bring problems and they go and get input from their peers, other people, on their problem, how to solve them. This provides them different views about how they can come up with new way of solving their problems and bringing value to the business. We also have, this is the end of our expert buyer program, we have what we call the extreme case. This is the integrative case. And basically we give them a big challenge, something that's totally paradoxical. So for instance, your CEO has been asking you to deliver a program where you are going to expose management to 500 startups in less than a year. And then we say, go, and you have 2 hours, you have a methodology, you are going to follow it and make some recommendation about this. So these are extreme situations that forces people to think out of the box, to find new ways to be able to respond to competing challenges that they've just been given in terms of the time it takes and the amount of activity they need to do in this amount of time. This is really something that helps them to explore options, find the right facts that help them to deliver what would be the best solution for the business.
Thank you very much, Hervé. If I understand clearly, you have been adapting different pedagogies to the different levels of jobs, competencies. Is it? Can we say that?
Yeah, we can say that, because as we progress over time in the different jobs in a purchasing context, the more we progress, the more we need to interact on the true strategic problem of the business with the most important supplier that I'm bringing some added value to the company. And therefore, the way of managing the project, the way of conducting investigations of the market needs to take into account this degree of uncertainty and complexity.
I think you have been very keen, and you have been adapting one solution called the leadership sprint for a certain level of people. Can you tell a bit more? Can you tell us a bit more about this leadership sprint? Wonderful name, a leadership sprint.
Yeah, the word sprint has been extensive used by people who are supporting the concept of becoming agile. And that's really inspired by the agile practice that we came up with the logic of a leadership sprint. It's a very simple problem-solving activity, but it's got to be done in 6 weeks. And this is something that people who are entering in our purchasing manager level, they have to conduct 3 leadership sprints throughout their program. We coach them, we help them to go through this. But the idea is really to improve their personal capabilities and their team capabilities, because very often they will apply directly with their teams these activities. This can be about becoming a role model for one of the value of the company. This might be about how to better communicate the added value of the procurement organization. This might be about how to strengthen the capability in terms of risk management, or really to deal with some of the personal issue that you have in terms of moving your organization forward. And they go through, in 6 weeks, a 4-step process. The first week, they clarify the problem. The second week, they need to have identified a number of people from the organization and sometimes from outside the organization. And they go and they ask them feedback and recommendation on their problem. What do they need to keep doing? What do they need to improve, stop doing, start doing? Simple framework that allow them to gather a lot of intelligence coming from other people. And then they need to design and test a solution in 2 or 3 weeks before they present what they've done to the rest of the group with whom they are studying. And they share their problem, they share the feedback they got from others, they share what they implemented, and they share some of the early feedback on the implementation or on the plan they've been sharing with others. So this is sessions where people learn from each other, where people engage with others, so creating a social level in terms of learning for everyone.
What are the lessons learned from this leadership sprint?
Well, this is something that's really engaging because, very often when people have been doing projects, this is over 4 months. Here, you have a certain pace. You have a number of obligations, like going to a number of people, interviewing them in order to get some input. And sometimes they go to other companies, they go to other functions to get some of their input. This is really getting people used to challenge their own view of the world and connect with others to learn, because this is one of the fundamental. The more we want to go into uncertain and complex situation, the more we need to connect with new people that can provide a different way of looking at what we are going through and help us find new ways of navigating through the rapids as we are going through these days.
And you think this leadership sprint can be used for any level, for any content, for any concepts?
I think that the leadership sprint is something that's more suitable at the level of a manager, because this is something that they can explore independently of each other and then bring back some of their lessons learned that they share all together. If we're looking at people, for instance, who are expert buyer, one of the things that we ask them is to develop one case study, which is only 2 pages. They go and they interview one person from their organization on an innovation project, one person from the supplier and a stakeholder, and they come back with lessons learned. It's a similar process, but this is something that's aimed more at collecting input that they can share all together than at bringing the change at the level of the teams, as we do with the purchasing managers.
Amazing, thanks very much, Hervé. Just to conclude, which are the EIPM commitment to support managers in the executive education?
So when we have senior participants in our program, who are coming to EIPM to, what they're here for is to support in order to help them transform and move toward a vision for their organization. So we don't simply commit to help them learn, but we provide them a platform that can help them to lead some change and create learning activities within their teams. This is very much, the idea of this leadership sprint, for instance. They need to bring along some of their team members. They have impact every 6 weeks on people around them. And what we push them is to challenge their assumption. This is the second key element. We push them to challenge their assumptions, see the world from different eyes. So for instance, when we have people who are joining the masterclass, we are going to bring, people who have expertise in the field of data management. We are going to give the views of what are the best practices in terms of data management, or in the field of circular economy. And they are bringing their expertise, their vision of the world to people in procurement. And this is a way to expand and to see the world with different eyes. The third one is, by doing this, we hope that we are creating more curiosity, pushing people to look beyond the obvious, exposing them to what happened deeper into their market, and to be connected with different people and ideas over time, either as part of their activities in their project or as part of what they do together with us. And what's really important is to create connection. This is the fourth key element. Connect with and learn from others. That's absolutely essential. What we have as a vision is really to get the group of people that are going through together, that they can continually support each other. A very short call can allow the opportunity to anyone, hey, I'm looking at doing this, at finding a better way of bringing the coaching spirit into my leadership meetings. Have you done anything that has been useful for you? Hey, we are really looking at risk management. I know you've been doing, so really finding way of connecting with others that will be accompanying you over time. At the end of the day, the fifth principle is we challenge people on their limits, but we at the same time develop their confidence. We create groups where there is trust, where you can openly discuss of new things, and you can openly start to experiment with new way of leading your teams. So we challenge their limits, but this is a nice atmosphere of people being together on a regular basis. And it's really developing the confidence of everyone to see everyone making progress and making changes.
Thank you very much, Hervé. Amazing. And I thank you very much, because you've shown during this discussion that at the EIPM, we're not only working on the content, on the concepts, on the practices, on the tools, but also on the way of learning, on the way of transferring this knowledge. The pedagogy is very important for us, not only for today, but for tomorrow. The world is changing, the way of learning is changing, the way of transferring this knowledge is changing, the way of adapting this knowledge is also changing. So thanks very much for this discussion, Hervé. Thanks very much for showing all these elements. Thank you, Hervé.
Thank you, Bernard. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
It's time now for our panel discussion with our three speakers. So welcome the panel discussion. Welcome to you. Hey, how are you, all of you? Thanks very much for your very great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you, three of you, around this table. It's a pleasure to have you here from Germany, from Singapore, and from Archamps here. So thanks again for this presentation, different in the style, different in the content, complementary in a sense. We have been discussing and you have been presenting different elements about the procurement academies, speaking about regionalized and global pedagogy. So we're going to discuss together. So it's always interesting to discuss through a word, but now we have a tool, so we can jump in. Listening to you, academies are about both homogeneity and diversity at the same time. How do you see those two conflicting logics working together? I think it's really important today, and we have to jump and to start with this topic because a lot of people are just wondering how we can do. Raphael, do you jump in, and after perhaps Xavier will be adding some elements and giving the words to Hervé. Raphael.
Sure. First of all, once again, thanks for having us here today, Bernard. It's a real pleasure to us. But coming to your question, how does the two worlds actually living together? To be honest with you, I don't think they're actually contradictory, but instead I would add that they are complementary. We should have always this overarching frame of what are the basic elements that procurement, supply chain needs to tackle, aims to tackle, and we should have a given degree of flexibility always within our academy in order to understand the differences within our business. In a large environment like E.ON, for example, and Hervé, Xavier, and I were discussing that somehow as well, we need to see that there are different business within large corporations, and those specific elements to the different business need to be considered whenever we are somehow tailoring the knowledge and the trainings we need to provide to our procurement people. I will give you one precise example, Bernard. In the new E.ON, the key focus of what we have done now and what we're going to be doing is the energy networks business and the customer solutions business. So in many aspects, the overall frame about what the company needs to look after, about what procurement needs to consider should be the same. But there are some specialties. There are some, I would say, important factors for different types of business for both energy networks as well as customer solutions that need to be considered as well whenever we get into classroom. What is on the top element, on the top agenda for the customer solutions business might not necessarily be exactly the same one as what we have in the energy networks, for instance. In order to be able to convey that in a proper way, I believe that we need to be very close to the business, to the different types of business that we have. I believe we need to consider the regional elements of the different environments that our one procurement organization is actually living at in order to teach people what they need to learn and what's going to be useful on their day-to-day work. Because if we're just looking to the overarching, to the traditional frame of what procurement needs to do, you miss to be specialized. And if you go too much specialized, you also need to have the connection that the overall business and the overall procurement organization actually have. So finding this balance, in my opinion, is a way of complementing how the teaching should actually, the knowledge process should take place.
Thank you, Raphael. Xavier, how do you treat homogeneity and diversity in Agilent?
I would agree with what Raphael was saying in terms of understanding the business and being able to adapt to the different needs and to make sure that the academy is here to accompany the people in their, let's say, approach and to make sure that we don't have one size fits them all. So we need to be able to understand the business and to then deliver a training that is inclusive of all these this diversity. I would also talk about one other topic when it comes to homogeneity and diversity. It's homogeneity. I would say the academy is a scheme, is an umbrella under which we have a different modules available and different learning available. And after the diversity is in the way we approach it individual by individual. The thing is that we need to create an individual path for each of the team members, so they are finding their own interests for their learning and for their career development path. Because at the end, we are not talking about a mass of 100 people. We are talking about individuals in the team members that we want to raise their skill and their competencies so they can not only apply in their current role, but they also prepare for the next role.
Thank you, Xavier. Hervé.
No, I think that's a really key topic, and this is something that should be evolving over time. In many ways, when a lot of academies have been started by companies, this was about creating one company and bringing different entities together. And it's absolutely essential to have a common language, to have some common processes, some common way of thinking. So this is a blueprint for efficiency. This is a blueprint to interact with the stakeholder in common ways. But as maturity is developing, as we are getting closer and closer to the business in order to bring some of the innovation and deliver more value, it's absolutely important to go beyond this and to be able to bring some of the additional elements, maybe in different formats, but having more dynamic approach to the curriculum, to what's part of the academy, what's delivered, and how it's delivered.
Thank you. If I just may add some points, is we see that when we give some trainings, and homogeneity is very frequently we give the same content, the same practice, the same tools. At the same time, diversity is from per region. Not everybody is speaking English or speaking German in your case, and we have to adapt. So this is a kind of diversity, and the same today. We have some trainings, the same content, exactly the same, is delivered in Japanese, in Chinese, in Arabic, and at the same time in English, and everybody can exchange, have exactly the same practice, the same culture, but at the same time we try to focus on individuals, as you say. So yeah, this is a very important point, and we have to maintain this idea of homogeneity and diversity. A second question is, how do you see the future role for academy? Do you see it in the creation of knowledge networks to support a more informal leadership? Is it one aspect of a role of the academy? I perhaps to start with Hervé, if you don't mind. I think this is some of your ideas around.
Yeah, no, I think this is one of the elements when we are into this logic of bringing a common knowledge, some foundation. I think some of the classic format of putting people through some 1 day, 2 days program where they can go through some of these foundation makes a lot of sense. But as soon as we move into other topics, whether we want to develop the ability of the organization on digital aspects, on innovation, on sustainability, well, that would be interesting to have something that would be a more long-lasting kind of activity where there's a repeat of event every 3 months where we bring together people that can blend some of the experience sharing, working together on solving a few problems, bringing a little bit of education aspect. So more and more blending, I would say, this topic into an evolutionary path that really support change over time of the organization and really accompanying both the company, the procurement organization, and the people throughout time by bringing different input to the situation. That's really this idea of knowledge networks, and maybe more open in terms of attendance, having people from different level of seniority and different parts of the organization.
Thank you, Hervé. Xavier, what's your point?
From our perspective, and my experience working on training before, I think that we have evolved a bit in the mindset of academy from a very let's say static program to a more dynamic program, and we look at it in Agilent not for a 1 year shot, but more as a 3 to 5 years program in which we want to really increase diverse skills, not only the one which are very, let's say, standard in the procurement, but we want also to be adaptive to the world of tomorrow. You were talking about innovation, sustainability, digital. So these are some key challenges that we want our community in procurement to be able to address. I think also that we need to adapt to the change also in the organization. In my team, I have some new rules that didn't exist 1 year ago, and we need to prepare the people to this challenge, and we need to bring to them some skills and knowledge so they are able to deliver their full, let's say, impact. So for us, the idea of the academy is something which is much more a scheme in which we are dynamic, it is flexible, and in 1 year time, it will not look like what it was last year. So this is something that is constantly evolving in terms of topic, in terms of content, and also, as you say, the population that is participating. And maybe in the future, we will also invite more people from other functions.
Thank you, Xavier. Raphael?
Yes, I mean, I can only agree with the colleagues, with Hervé and with Xavier. What we have done, and we had it very clear from the very beginning, we implemented our Supply Chain Academy in 2017. And we knew that we wouldn't like to have something static, because in the end, it needed to be a live organization. The Supply Chain Academy should be something that would provide every year a different platform for people who already the previous year to learn something different in the past, in the future as well. So there needs to be a gradual, I would say, development of our people. And as Xavier just said, and Hervé also confirmed that, there are elements that in the beginning, perhaps none of us had thought that we would like to have in our Supply Chain Academy, and that we need to revise that on perhaps a yearly basis in order to see what we want to add. So if in the beginning, our very strong belief was that we needed to invest on the hardcore skills of our people with the elements that Xavier and Hervé just described, things like sustainability, digitalization, innovation, they are now already part of the supply chain procurement universe that we're living at as well. So we need to rethink as well what we used to consider as the classic matters or the classic subjects of procurement, because procurement is changing and procurement will need to adapt to the new challenges we're facing. So I can only agree that it needs to be a live organism moving forward and every year adapting to the new challenges. And I'd like to elaborate a little bit on what you said, Bernard, about having the academy as a potential support for making leaders. And Hervé has discussed that during his intervention on the interview as well. I think whenever you put leaders together in a classroom, either physically or virtually, you can only benefit because they will share experience. They will not only learn, they will learn from each other. They will not only learn from the teachers, but they will share a lot of experiences, and that will help them on their leadership positions as well. So I'm always in the position and the strong belief that we should have as much as possible our leaders, it doesn't matter how high they are on the organization, participate on the academy in order not only to learn, but also to share experience that people can learn from them as well.
Thank you, Raphael. I have a question for you, Raphael, and Xavier, and I have a different one for Hervé. During your presentation, you spoke about the academy, about the success stories, the objectives, the success stories of your academies. You did not elaborate too much about the difficulties you have been facing in defining and then to cascade and to deploy this academy. So, Raphael, first, what have been the difficulties you have been facing in this setup and deployment?
Well, first, we have been into a constant transformation in Lyon. That's something that we have been at basically since 2012. So that's clearly one of the difficulties that we have, because whenever we believe that we're finished from transformation, we already jump into the second one. It's basically driven by all the changes that we're facing on the energy industry as such as well. So that's definitely something that we need to look very closely at in order to make sure, and as we have said it before, that our academy is fitting into this constant transformation that we live in. But if we put the transformation aside, I think none of us can actually neglect the difficulties which were derived during the COVID crisis. I think that's something which is common not only for the supply chain economies, but all procurement organizations. I mean, things that we didn't believe we actually would be facing, we're all facing now. I mean, people, they believe that that will be easier to be sitting together and to share experience physically. They can't do that anymore. So technically, we have faced difficulties on first getting people motivated to come to class, knowing that they would be doing things remotely, at least for the time being. Difficulties related to who are the people that we need to get into the academy? How do we get people into the classroom? We cannot neglect, and people are overwhelmed about this entire situation. Many people that actually used to spare some time for learning, they now need to cope of being at home, taking care of kids, doing homeschooling, and they question themselves, which time do I have for learning, for actually really understanding the matters? So that's something that we support our people on as well, because they cannot neglect that learning is still one of the best ways to further develop. So COVID is actually imposing us a lot of challenges. I mean, it's not only about how do we do things, but it's also what do we do? How do people prioritize their times between being home office, taking care of kids, doing homeschooling, coping with irregular work, where they now don't have a separation between work and home anymore. It's just one, as long as people working from home. And on top, also being home and being at school. So before, people used to have things very separated, and they used to spend their time for doing that. That's the time I'm in the academy. That's the time that I'm working. That's the time that I'm home. Now everything is together. And I believe that the real impact on what comes to the mental health of our people is not yet seen. It's something that we'll see afterwards. So I think this is one of the challenges that COVID is actually imposing on us, and we will see this on a medium and in a longer run.
Thank you, Raphael. Xavier?
I have to share the same same difficulties with Raphael, especially our academy. Our program started end of 2019, early 2020, so exactly at the same time that that we entered in the pandemic. So yes, we have faced quite a lot of challenge to still keep the program in motion and to make sure that we were not giving up. But I would say that, in fact, this challenge have become at the end some strengths, because something that we were not seeing as possible 1 year ago or 2 years ago, now everybody is doing it on a daily basis. So we were talking about some remote interaction. Now it's, I think, is the daily life of a lot of people, and we are coping with this with huge success, I would say. So I would say that if the will is present, there is no difficulty, there is no challenge that we cannot overcome. And in our case, we had a strong belief that this was needed for the organization, that we really wanted to implement this change in terms of culture, in terms of organization, and the training and the modules that we have brought to the organization. It was the right time. So at the end, everything, I think, despite the challenge, despite the difficulties, we were able to bring something of value to the team, and they were really appreciative of this.
Thank you, Xavier. Hervé, so a different question for you. You have been working with, and you're working with different companies, delivering trainings in different companies for different procurement academies. Can you group some success stories and also some difficulties, why some companies have some difficulties in implementing these academies, or why some others are very successful, and which have been the kind of success drivers or some failures drivers?
I think what we see very much is the company that are very successful. They don't see it about training individuals. They see it as part of a change program, and the academy is one of the vehicles that deliver that change program. So this is really about connecting these different elements that really makes it a successful program. Maybe I think one of the sometimes what we see is companies they try to make the perfect academy first, And today, when we send a SpaceX rocket to the moon, we start manufacturing it when the design is not finished, because we know that the cables are not going to be set up inside the rocket from day one. So they start manufacturing the rocket, they start testing the rocket before it's fully designed. And in many ways, this would be my recommendation. Many companies can start in a fairly agile deployment mode. Starting by some of the foundation, the building block, and then looking at some of the complementary aspect that can be brought into the picture over time. There's possibly another emphasis on getting everything right first time, and having this kind of a classic I need to have everything well defined from the beginning, when actually it's all about, we've demonstrated over the past 2 years there's so many things where we can quickly adapt and make things right and find new ways a little bit under pressure. So we need to keep some of this practice, I think, from what we've experienced.
I like your example of a rocket to the moon, but don't say so for implementing a procurement academy. I'm just afraid that some people be afraid of starting a procurement academy if you compare to a rocket to the moon. So I understand. So it was a very nice example of doing and working at the same time. You explained during the discussions the evolution of training, the evolution of face-to-face, getting through self-learning on e-modules and tutor-led class. We know advantage, disadvantage. You have been speaking about that. Can you just focus a bit on some elements about some disadvantage you see in the self-learning? You give an open library, e-learning library, and it's kind of open bar, and you say, let's go, and you have some tutor-led with a tutor training. So how do you see the major difficulties or elements to focus on? Let's start with Xavier, because you have been speaking about that.
I think that for the future, we have to look at it not with the eyes of 2019. We have to look at it with our fresh eyes of today. And at some point, what was not possible last year will be possible tomorrow and will be different even to what we are experiencing today. The situation that we are facing in 6 months' time, in 1 year time, nobody can talk about it. What we know is that we are not going to come back to what it was pre-COVID. It will not be what we was during the COVID. It will be something hybrid, where I think it will be a mix of face-to-face interaction, a mix of remote interaction. I think the advantage of remote clearly is that we can put more than 10 people, 15 people from a different region in the same room, and then have more interaction that we couldn't have had in the past because of this restriction on travel and so on. What we are losing is the human aspect and the human interaction, and because you know that when it comes to face-to-face, it's not just what is happening during the room, it's also what has the discussion bring into the machine and this, let's say, unformed discussion. And to be frank, we are discussing that before. I think we are reaching a bit the limit of the all digital. Having only interaction through a screen, it's nice, but it's not the life. And I think that at some point we will have to come back to a certain level of face-to-face interaction in the same room, in physical, because it is we are reaching the limit of what is humanly possible in terms of protecting the culture and at the same time protecting the mental health of the people. And we will need to find the right balance. Today it's very difficult to say how it will look like because nobody knows actually. So we are going to experiment. We are going to try, and then after, as we usually do, we will keep the best practice, and we will remove some of the things that don't work, and we'll move from there.
Thank you.
Hope I'm making sense.
Raphael, just to focus more, you open a library and you give access directly to other people to the library, and or you say, well, it's better to have a tutor in the room. What is your position now?
My position is that we need to have both. I know it's a very political answer, but we need to have both, and I tell you why. I see advantage and disadvantage on everything. So if you go through the public library, yes, you open space, people can have access to as much information as possible. Big advantage, it's something flexible. You don't need to have a specific time for people to do this. They open, they go through part of the training. If they have something else to do, they come back, they finish that afterwards. So there is this flexibility element, which somehow helps people to go deeper and to say, I can find some time, whatever it is, to go through. So this is something very positive. The negative aspect of that, and I think Xavier has mentioned that as well, is the social interaction that we miss. If it's in the digital format, it is already not perfect because people are not physically meeting. Not even being in the same digital room makes this interaction even I would say less appreciated by people. So there is this social element which I strongly believe it's something important and needs to be there. And I give you one concrete example. Xavier has clearly elaborated on that. I remember that in Germany, at least, right after summer, we went through a very strong second wave from what came to COVID. And the decision taken was let's put everyone at home, working from home. It was widely celebrated in the beginning. People were saying, yeah, now we have flexibility and we are at home. What we face now is the other way around, is people asking when they can be together in the office as well, because they would like to interact more. Yes, they are on some calls from 9 to 6 with people, for instance, but they don't find time actually for discussing topics which are not only derived from this call. And I guess the same applies to your supply chain academy. So people need to have this common exchange between them, and only having this open bar public library that you have said, Bernard, will give us more flexibility, but will definitely cut off the social interaction of people.
Thank you, Raphael. Hervé, as a prof trainer, what is your position on this in very few words?
Very quick, maybe more simple micro-learning, sometimes even crowdfunded by the organization. So, you know, there's some people have a good expertise in a legal aspect. You know, they record a 3 minutes video, and that can be accessible in something along your process, while focusing on more the social aspects, on more challenging the assumptions of people through interactions with amongst humans.
Okay. So just to recap, as you said, Raphael, this open bar library is more for information, while a trainer is exchanging, and you need for training formation. Okay, so great. At one point, you have been insisting a lot on hard skill and using the Procurement Academy to develop the technical elements and so on and so forth. What about the behavioral? How do you treat these elements of behavioral in your academies? Is it a key point, or because you're not speaking a lot of that? Raphael.
Okay, I think Xavier briefly mentioned that in when he was answering one of the questions as well, Bernard. Obviously, we try to touch different levels within our academy. In our academy, basically, just to make it very clear to people, we have 3 main clusters. So one of them is the e-learnings that we have. The other one is the physical trainings, the standalone courses, and we also have our certification program that we run together, Bernard. And on our certification program, we have 3 different levels. So we have one for professional, one for experts, and one for managers. On the managers one, we don't touch only the very hardcore skills. This is something that we try to elaborate together with you guys as well. What is important for a manager in order to do his job within supply chain, within procurement? What we also have, and that's something that is a little bit outside of supply chain, outside of our supply chain academy, sorry, is some specific other programs that we have developed tailored to supply chain. It's not necessarily linked to our supply chain academy, which is called Optima, but specific programs focus on procurement. We have two within Aon. We have one which is called LPP, that's the Leadership Potential Program, where we clearly try to develop the leadership skills, and having the manager level within our academy only reinforces that in the end. We have one program which is called the POP, Professional Orientation Program, which is basically for the young talents that we identify, how we can help them to further develop within procurement supply chain. And outside of all of this, the company invests heavily as well on other programs, focus more on the soft skills or the development of the values that people need to have in order to fit into the companies, which is following a grow model, which is something not exclusive to supply chain, but it's something that we ideally open that and we offer to the entire company. On top, obviously, we have the typical traditional trainings like a language that people need to do anyhow, a stronger focus on digital skills. So I believe that until now, and I mentioned that in the beginning, the core of our academy has been very much on the hardcore skills. As time's passing by, and we have already mentioned that this live organization that should be, we will need to incorporate other elements into that because they become part of the procurement DNA as well. Things like innovation, digitalization, sustainability, they will need to be considered as a core element of what procurement does anyhow.
Thank you, Raphael. Xavier, something to add on that?
Yeah, on our side, it's a bit the same. We have so the academy, which is called LEAP, which is really focusing on hard skill in procurement and supply chain. But on the side, the company is also having some other programs which are more on the behavior and more other topics oriented. I would just like to mention one very interesting program that we have, which is focused only on global supply chain right now, which is a mentoring program. So we have 10 to 12 senior managers that are taking each one mentee over the course of 1 year, and we have some regular discussion. We are coached by a professional mentor as well, who is coaching at the same time the mentors and the mentees to explain what are the different steps of the interaction and to make sure that we don't make any mistake. But I mean, mentoring is not a mentor is not a shrink, if you see what I mean. So the idea here is really to drive some high potential, some people that we believe have a good, let's say, development path ahead of us, of them, and we want to coach on this side more on the behavioral aspect, so functional management and this kind of thing. And so far it has been very, very positive, both for the mentors and the mentees, to develop these alternative skills, I would say, or more behavioral skills.
Yeah, if you allow me, Bernard, to just elaborate on what Xavier said, I think it's super important topic because we have exactly a similar approach, Xavier, at Aon as well. We have for each one of the directors, the N-2 level reporting directly to the CPO, we have at least one or two mentees out of leadership potential programs assigned. That's something that has worked pretty well. And in our organization now, we have at least two of the directors who came, including myself, from programs like that. And on the N-3 layer, we have at least big part of them coming out of those programs as well. So I believe it has a strong payback to the company doing this as well.
Yeah, and this is more exclusive. This program is more exclusive.
This program is
more exclusive. So it's limited to a very limited number of people because this kind of interaction is one-to-one, and this is over a course of 1 year. We do that 10 to 12 months. So of course it's not open to all the communities, really selective people.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Xavier. Hervé, one question for you. How do you think we can help people to be more open to new development, to be more aware about changes?
Well, maybe I will start from a managerial perspective. You know, I think that today a good purchasing leader is someone that makes sure that buyers are talking to the right people the right people inside the organization, not just the one who have their door open, but sometimes the grumpy stakeholder, that's going to be the most challenging one. And also talking to, outside of the existing supplier, outside of the company, pushing that curiosity. And I think that's important, because when you push your people to do this, they get a better understanding of what are the real challenges they need to address and where are the solutions for today and tomorrow. And I think in terms of education, this is exactly the same. We shouldn't be just educating individuals, but we should help, especially for the managers program, get them to go and interact more with people they don't know, with people from other functions, with some of the challenging stakeholder, and bring back the lessons and share them with other people in the room. So this is this social dimension, this is this critical thinking, that curiosity that we've been integrating in some of our programs. That's really making a difference of being more aware, being more alert, to things that are happening in the environment.
Thank you, Hervé. Do you have any, before conclusion, do you have any question we did not elaborate? I'm just checking on the question. I see one which may be interesting for you. Any question we did not cover? There is one here from the people who are looking at us. Is how do you evaluate the value brought by the academy? Do you have any process for measuring, assesses this value? Just in 2 words, Raphael, Xavier, and Hervé on a more theoretical point.
Yes, we do. We apply as a part, especially part of our certification program, that there needs to be one specific vendor, one specific project driven as part of the certification, where the value is defined, the KPI for measuring the value is defined, and by the end, before actually awarding the certification, we actually check on how this value has been delivered. It can be bottom line, top line, but we have a clear way of actually measuring this.
Thank you, Raphael. Xavier?
So on our side, we don't have, let's say, a KPI related to the overall academy. We are, of course, measuring the satisfaction and the feedback from the participants to the different modules that we propose, and this is more a one shot of each of the modules. We don't intend to do a reassessment of the skills, at least in the coming 1 or 2 years, to check the skills increase. Maybe we'll do that further in 3 or 5 years, but we don't intend to do that right now. What we measure, in fact, is that since we started this academy, we are able to position some succession plan for all the key functions. So we have identified who are the people who are going to replace the key function where we need. And we have started, in fact, to do some internal promotion with some people who have attended the academy and that they have demonstrated some willingness to go to the next step. I have to say that, in fact, in Agilent, before the past 2 years, people tended to stay in the same role for a very long time. And this kind of job rotation or promotion, internal promotion, are something quite new. And for us, we measure it as a success for the organization, and the team is also measuring it as a success for themselves, because they see that now it's possible to move in the ladder of the organization. So this is so it's more qualitative, let's say, measurement than quantitative today.
Thank you, Xavier. Any comment on that, Hervé?
No, I think that'd be great to go back to people when you're after a program and ask them, over the year, have you been daring to do things differently after you've been going to a training? Because I think that's the whole point, is changing behavior. Learning is about changing behavior.
Actually, the question is, what is your role different? How your role is different from it was at the beginning of the training or the academy? And if some people say I'm doing exactly the same as what I did 2 years ago, then you are failing. So hopefully, people will answer, I am in a different role, or I am doing my job differently. And I think this would be the success of the academy, that the people are changing their way of working.
Okay. Thank you very much, Xavier, Raphael, and Hervé, for these very interesting interactive sessions. I know there are a lot of questions still remaining. I will be answering all of you to the questions if you send us some emails, and we'll be answering. Thank you, all of you from all around the world. It was a pleasure. We are arriving toward the end, and it's time now for our synthesis. Hey, I'm very pleased to welcome you, Katia. Katia, who is joining me for the synthesis about procurement, academies, and global and regionalized pedagogies. Katia Lott is our educational program manager at EIPM. She has been driving the change in our pedagogy around these past years. And she's with us today for speaking about what we have been doing at EIPM, in EIPM, and what we're doing for the company. Just to start, what EIPM has been developing these last years in terms of pedagogy. We're going to start first by pedagogy, before speaking a bit more about to speak about more. I'm just looking about my system. Just starting with pedagogies before working after on the procurement academy. So what we did EIPM has been doing along this past year.
Okay, well, I think a good example is this this slide with some key figures to give an idea of where EIPM is today, with a situation which of course is constantly changing, constantly evolving. This is work in progress, and this is where we're going. So 130, that's already a key figure for us. It's the number of e-modules that we have today in our new versions. And these e-modules, the next key figure is 7. Today, these e-modules exist in 7 different languages. And the goal, of course, for us is to have other languages. Today, we're looking at Japanese, we're looking at Arabic, potentially at Russian. So this is something which constantly will evolve based on our clients' needs and their requests. How do we organize content? It's one thing to have content. It's another thing on how you actually organize it. Well, we organize it with a certain number of topics, okay? We also organize it, so we have 13 different topics. And then we have another key figure, which is very important for us, to 2021. The figure is 30. It's our 30th anniversary. And it's also 30 e-module clusters, how we have organized these with these different clusters to really use them appropriately for our courses and for our clients.
When you speak about cluster, means you have some fundamentals, intermediate, and advanced for the same topic, correct?
Organized by levels and organized by topics, okay. Yes. Okay. So really, it corresponds to, I think, something that we've identified and that our clients really are looking for. When we relate to all of these e-modules, this distance learning and this more blended learning, which is really something that's dear to my heart and to our vision, blended learning, distance learning, virtual classes. Today we're at 37 virtual classes, and as we develop more content, we will have more virtual classes, more theme-based, more level-based regarding our clients. Virtual classes, it's also webinars, something that we kicked off initially with Hervé's experience in webinar. Today we're at 60 plus webinars, and this is once again a figure which is growing non-stop. Same thing, videos, 100 plus videos, videos which can be in different languages, which can be subtitled, and which can be regionalized for clients based on their languages, on their cultures. Also, your cultural approaches influence the type of approach that you're going to take to things. And then just to give you one figure, which is 90,000. 90,000 is just one aspect of our partnership with ProQuest Online Library. It's 90,000 different sources. It's 6 billion D pages, which is enormous. enormous. It's 450,000 ebooks. So this is just some of the key figures which show what EIPM started off before I arrived over 5 years ago, and what we have really been working on and what we're working on a constant basis.
If I understand correctly, the partnership with ProQuest helps you when a trainer is giving a link on an article. This link is alive and it's real because we pay the subscription, and it's not on a Google and this link can disappear one day by another. It's correct?
Exactly. We of course we go and we will find resources via Google, via Wikipedia, via YouTube, etc., etc. But with ProQuest, we bring a certain academic quality with content which is regularly updated, which is validated. Because one of the pitfalls of Wikipedia, for example, is the fact that yes, content can disappear, and how true is it? How verified? Mm-hmm. With ProQuest, we can guarantee that there is this standard that we're looking for.
So all this library, all these documents are on the EIPM LMS. Can you plug these docs and all this information on any client company LMS?
Yes, of course. We have all this content on our own LMSs. We've developed what we call capsules. A capsule would be an e-module or several e-modules with additional content, readings, webinars, videos, ProQuest content, because the e-module in itself is not necessarily enough to give that global perspective, that global comprehension of the topic. And it is crucial for us to be able to replicate this vision on our clients' contents too, so via their own LMS.
I just said it's very important because our speakers, our guests were saying exactly the same. Basically, if you give only access to an e-learning, it's more information. And we very frequently give the example. So I'm looking for a contract. I would like to have some information on the contract. So you go and take the e-learning on contract. But training is much more. And what you said is you have e-learnings and you read some virtual class. So perhaps you could perhaps elaborate a bit more on this one. So we take this very nice suite. Eh?
Okay, so yes, I think this summarizes quite well our vision of pedagogy today with this de-learning, blended learning mix. Pure e-learning, 100% digital. Yes, we do it. We do have a full digital offer. It corresponds to a certain request, a certain need, but it has limitations which we are all aware of. And our idea is to have this threefold dimension of self-learning, the e-modules, what is done online, where the learner has autonomy, works at their own pace, where they have the different types of contents that we put online on our LMS or on the client's LMS, so the e-modules, the videos, the webinars, the readings from different sources, okay? So it's an important part of the learning process because it's where the people will get the theory, okay? Myself, from having done years of training, when my participants had to come to my class physically to get the theory with me before they can practice it, there's a feeling of perhaps we could be using our time more efficiently. Exactly. And that's where we go to the second phase, which is, well, in the before world, it was face-to-face sessions. In our future world, I believe it will be a mix of face-to-face sessions and or virtual classes. Okay, for us today, it is virtual classes. And that step is an important step to implement the theory, okay? Because theory without practice is nothing. You're going to remember it for 5 minutes, tomorrow it's forgotten, okay? So that idea, that moment of implementing the theory is something that in our vision, we've taken 3 angles of approaching to it, okay? It's split up in thirds. 1/3 is really checking that the people have understood that theory, okay? So one is, do you understand it? Do you have questions? Let's talk about it, okay? So that's an exchange. It's peer-to-peer sessions with the trainer, with the coach, with the enter trainer, okay? The third part of that study is really looking at, okay, can you go the next step? Okay, so the next step can be with courses with a sort of implementation via student cases, okay, or via standard cases if there are no appropriate cases to be able to use which are really relevant. And that will enable us to go the step further in taking the implementation, understanding the theory, and then implementing it, seeing how it becomes a reality. Okay, and then the last third of that second phase, which is the virtual class or the face-to-face, that is the actual Q&A, going a step further, asking questions, challenging the fact as a learner, have I understood it, by reformulating and getting the clarifications, not only by the coach, the trainer, but also by the other participants.
So thanks very much, Katia. If I understood correctly, you have self-learning, and then after you have this virtual face-to-face, because you have a trainer. And what I understood is, in fact, that this session is a 3 hour and a half now, virtual sessions, meaning that I understood that you have 1 hour and a half, you have a break, coffee break, and an hour and a half, and you asked your participants to maintain video on and mic on even during the coffee break to recreate this spirit of face-to-face. So it's very important that we are in this world virtual, but together, as Raphael was saying before. Exactly. Another point I understood is concerning the customization. When you work with clients, you still can customize, not necessarily all the e-learnings, but you can customize all the docs and the virtual class, because this can be customized, putting the process, putting the practices, putting examples, and even including some brochures from the company on the platform, correct?
Exactly, getting case studies, input from the clients, so that the training, as I mentioned, this idea of the capsule, okay, the e-modules can be supplemented by specific material from the clients, and that way we really give something which is more personal and more adapted to the learner's working environment.
And understood also the change of the IPM is all the content belongs to the IPM. It means that anywhere in the world, it will be the same.
It will be the same quality, it will be the same trainers, different languages, but it is our DNA.
Okay. So I think we covered more or less all these elements of as a synthesis of the pedagogy. Just some words about the procurement academies. What have you been developing in terms of procurement academies? What are the success factors? We saw some success factors. I understood from what has been done is that if we want to be successful, I mean, IPM with a client, we need a team. We need a clear team created for this procurement academy in the clients and in the IPM to drive this procurement academy. It's correct.
Yes, I think the success of training outside of the classroom, whether physical or virtual, is of course the partnership between the trainer and the participants. And that success is also a direct consequence and relationship with the project team at EIPM and on the trainer side, who are going to identify the needs, the constraints, the objectives and the outcomes, and work together in a real collaborative mode, so that we can ensure that the objectives are met and become a reality.
So the procurement academies EIPM has been creating a global academies.
Yes.
Okay. So and we depending on the clients, the LMS, are we using the client's LMS or are we using the EIPM LMS?
Based on their requests, if they wanted to be hosted on our website, on our LMS, of course, that's a standard, that's a given for us. But we do adapt all our content, and we propose for our clients to have it on their own LMS.
And understood from the different discussion that everybody wants a community speaking in English, but somehow we have also diversity. Not everybody speaking English, in fact. What are we capable to do in the IPM in terms of languages? You do everything in English, or?
Well, our default language is English. Okay. That's what we start off with. It's our working structure. But based on already, if we take the e-modules today, 7 languages, definitely more coming out. our trainers. We teach in all continents. We have trainers with the EIPM's DNA in all different languages, with all different cultural mixes. And I think that is really how we can bring the guarantee of our standardized quality level, globally speaking, and the specificity, culturally speaking, geographically speaking, for our clients with their needs based on their academy.
Okay, and you can, all the certification, open courses can be done in the Procurement Academy or in standard base.
Exactly.
And it can be customized and standard.
Of course, everything's possible with the EIPM.
Okay. Thank you, Katia. It was a pleasure to welcome you here. Thanks very much. It's time now to leave and to close this session. Just some words before we closing. We have been speaking a lot about COVID. It's not finished. I mean, I think we're going to speak for a long time. But COVID, it was before COVID and after the new normality, as we say. And COVID has been an accelerator of change. I mean, change started before, but it has been accelerating. It has been accelerating this distance learning mode, this blended mode. And today, if we're not in the virtual mode, you're out. So we saw that. But we saw also that the open bar library is not necessarily the only solution. We need people. I mean, we need to share. We need to practice. You need to discuss. Even during a coffee break, we have to discuss together. So the idea of a procurement academy is virtual today, but it's a blended mode where we're going to have a trainer with people, with a class, and this class is alive. So it's a very important just to keep that in mind. We getting only e-learning is more information than reformation training. We understood that the companies are really driving this transformation, and we are to support this transformation. We understood also that the world is shrinking. We go for this community, but at the same time, it's nice to say that everybody speaking English, except the one who are not speaking English, and we need this diversity. We understood all these elements, and the main points, I think, when we're in a school, when we speak about competence, is to understand that the people are the drivers of a relation. We are in the technology world, but the technology is not driving us. It's the people is driving technology. So normally technology is facilitating. Tomorrow we're going to have much more artificial intelligence in distance learning, facilitating this exchange. So EIPM, you understood that EIPM is a school is dedicated to improving people and to change culture, to make research on all these elements, to trust in behavior. You saw our values on the front door. So it's very important for us. And as Hervé is saying, it's fifth generation is really when pace meets power. So the transformation of people, evolution of people, go through education, and we are here for you. So thank you, all of you from around the world, to be with us, to stay with us. We'll be capable to send you more information. Thank you to our speakers who did a great job. Thank you for the team. Thank you, Katia. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Hervé. And also thank you, Magali. Thank you, François. Thank you, Natalia, and Eric. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you a bit later for the next conference, the next session. You know, just a little word is you can start changing some little thing before the world changes completely yourself. So go on, we change our mindset step by step. Take care of yourself. Thank you very much, and we keep in touch. It was a real pleasure. Bye-bye, take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye.